So these are some next steps. The cohort is over. Now what? That is a great question. The cohort is not quite over. This is the last time we will all gather together, but you will have one final coaching call that you can have anytime between now and the end of June, or if you work it out with your coach, maybe a little bit later. You are going to talk through your final. Remember, it's always moldable. It's never quite final, but your completed church transformation plan. You're going to send it to your coach, and your coach is going to walk through that with you, encourage you, help you problem solve, things like that. So that's going to take place between now and the end of June. Work that out probably before vacations start. I know many of us like to take well-deserved vacations in the summer. So that's coming up. Alumni webinars. We occasionally offer, we actually just held one yesterday with Yuli on conflict. We offer webinars just for Growing Young cohort alumni. Now you all are in that super exclusive group. So our first one is already planned. It's August 24th. We'll email you, but we just want to make you aware of this. August 24th, Tommy Nixon, who's part of the Urban Youth Workers Institute. He is awesome. He's going to be joining us. Our colleague, Jane Han Guzman de Leon, is going to be joining us as well. And they're going to have a conversation about what ministry leadership looks like in today's world. It's going to be a great conversation. Tommy's the best if you haven't interacted with them. Another thing that you're going to be asking us about is, how do I spread our Growing Young vision? Well, you've already got a lot of resources. Another resource that we haven't really talked about to this point, the Growing Young Core Commitment videos. You can watch presentations on all the core commitments from Jake, Brad, and Kara. And we're going to give you a promo code to download those, and so you can use it. Some of you have already asked about it, but it's a great resource. The next thing is continue maintaining disciplined attention. Churches that make progress don't forget about Growing Young June 1st. Continue meeting, continue maintaining disciplined attention, and you're more likely to take steps towards Growing Young in your church. And then finally, keep in touch. Send us stories. If you see us at Orange, show up and say hi. We just had people do that a couple of weeks ago. All sorts of ways. Remain in contact. If you switch churches, shoot us an email and say, hey, I'm here now. Things like that. We truly value this relationship as it evolves into a little bit of a different type of relationship post-cohort. So with that, I want to open this up for stories. And some of you may have been prepped. Some of you may not have been. That's okay. This is a time for celebration stories. So I'm going to open it up, and in like 60 seconds or so, that's hard for pastors, I know, in about a minute, what is a story of hope, a story of celebration, a story that we can cheer together, signs of hope of what God is doing around young people, around growing young in your congregation? Stories of hope. No hope. No hope at all. Bobby, go ahead and share a story of hope.
Almost really by accident, we had a gap in our one of our adult Sunday school classes. No planned teacher for a number of reasons, and our youth director was just like, all right, well, maybe the youth will just come down and join, and we'll just do the curriculum we're doing. We'll just do it together. And they opened it, I think, wisely with some icebreakers. Go to this side of the room if you've ever heard this song, if you like this kind of food. And so 15 minutes, the room is just buzzing alive. And this is usually some of our older, quieter congregants. And to this day, after 2 months from that is one of the things that our congregants, the youth and these adults keep talking about, just how generative it was to learn from one another, start to hear stories. My gosh, the woman who was the first woman to graduate from Purdue with an engineering degree is sitting right there every week with them on Sunday. They had no idea her story. She didn't know there. Anyway, so now we're more intentionally planning these combined intergenerational learning, and just, wow, what a beautiful spark that is, that just almost fell together. Again, no plan. That's the Spirit just kind of getting ahead of where we need to go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We call those holy accidents. Moments when we can taste and feel God's presence in unplanned ways. Thank you so much, Bobby. What other stories of hope do we have? Yeah, First Presbyterian Church of Naples. What's a story of hope you can share with us?
There we go. As we mentioned, we had this significant adult retreat where we invited 6 of our congregation members and 4 of our young adults to kind of work through some depth, because in Growing Young, it says the number one thing that youth groups wish they had more of was more in-depth conversations. So we kind of entered into spaces of vulnerability, and just sharing, asking better questions and active listening. And one of our young adults, after church the following week, she said to me, I went downstairs and I was able to identify 3 people and their names. So like, that's big, and the comfort level of actually being in that space with them all weekend and feeling this is a safe person, it was just beautiful to hear.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Nancy. Yeah, Daniel, you want to go ahead and share next a story of hope with us?
Yeah, I've got a specific young man that I was going to talk about. I was his small group leader when he was in 8th grade, and he was a terror. Would run into the girls' bathroom, climb out of windows, just generally distract the group in every way that he could. None of it was ever malicious. He just was a very distractible and distracted young man. And I remember going out to the car one time, meeting his dad, and that moment was like a really good touchstone with his family. He ended up joining our creative tech team. So he was up there running a camera, and that ended up in part bringing his family really into our church. So his dad at one point worked for us on the weekends, and he joined the creative tech team when Ryan did. His sister worked for us in our kids department. His mom is a reader for Mass. And his brother's a greeter. So he brought his whole family eventually, and then he ended up serving. And just recently he graduated and has given all kinds of messages and stuff over the years, but it was just this turning point of him finding a place in the church to serve. And creative tech was that place for him, and doing it in adult ways. He's even directed our broadcast that we do on the weekends too. And I went skydiving with him and another senior of ours that just are graduating. So just a cool transformation story that we had. You hope for more of those.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Daniel. And that's a good reminder too to all of us that it's, sometimes it's the ministry machine. I get sucked into that. It's not about the ministry machine. It's about names and peoples and family. And that's beautiful. What other stories of hope have emerged from the past few months? Brad.
So I'll embarrass him. Oh wait, Brad, go ahead.
Sorry, Lee.
Yeah, as a number of congregations, we've had a lot of turnover in staffing, particularly in youth and young adult ministries. And for our listening sessions, we had a tremendous turnout, and we saw a number of young people who came out who wanted to share, and the opportunity for all of our young people to get together and to share and to be heard. We could see in their faces the uplift that they were valued. From that moment, that build trust in the congregation and in leaders, that has been it's really set the tone for our ministry moving forward. So I think that opportunity for young people's voices to be heard has taken a chaotic time and transformed that into a place where they feel trusted and safe. And I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brad. And that's a reminder too, that theme that's come up a couple times. Sometimes oftentimes it's not about the big giant moments. It's about laying that foundation. And we hear from all of you, from the point leaders in particular. I feel like we're not far enough. I feel like we need to be doing more. I feel like we need to, we're not enough. Laying a foundation is huge. Laying foundation is a story of hope. These small stories are stories of hope. Lee, could you share another story of hope with us?
You bet. So we were one of those groups that felt like we were so behind, and but what it allowed for us, as I was saying, I'll embarrass him because his camera is off. Back in the fall, I had asked one of our college freshmen to join the Growing Young team, but he's starting college, and things like that. So it's like, no, it's not the right time. Well, because we felt like we were still pretty much at the beginning. There he is. He's smiling now. I asked him later in the spring, I was like, you want to jump on? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, great, and then when we got together, it came time we were regrouping, we were looking at all the essentials, we're going through the course. And then it came to listing projects, and I did my typical thing, which I'm sure a lot of church workers have that habit of, okay, add to all of my things I need to do. And I realized, I was like, does anybody want to take our listing project? And Noah said yes. And I told him today, we were reflecting because we had it Sunday, we'll have our facilitators meet back. I said, Noah, I say this sincerely, like, even if I had a completely free plate, I could not have done it as well as you did it, So it was one of those, all of the communication, the organizing, because on top of it, I currently have calls to 2 other congregations. And so both of these weekends, I was out of town and had no worries at all with anything because I knew it was in great control with one of our college freshmen. So, and I have nothing but positive feedback from everybody that participated. So this is a really cool opportunity, and crazy how God works, even when we're super behind. It allowed for other opportunities for Noah to come into the mix for us.
Way to go, Noah. We have time for about one more story of hope. Anybody else want to share a story of hope?
I'll share. We in March kicked off a 6-week series we called Gen We. And what we did was we looked at what was happening in churches, with 50% of young people walking away after graduation. And what we said was trying to kind of playing off of Gen Z, but saying, like, if we're going to fix this problem, it's not going to be about any one generation. It's going to be about Gen We. It's going to be about every generation coming together. And so we walked through what it looks like to model faith for the next generation. We walked through what it looks like to be intentional with our time, moments, milestones. And then we finished it off with what we called Commitment Sunday, where we walked our entire congregation. We didn't have programming for elementary kids, and we encouraged even preschool parents to bring their kids in. And just we're really intentional to make sure that it was a service designed with kids in mind, and walk through the commitment of everyone, like having an opportunity to make a commitment to the Lord, walking through an opportunity to make a commitment within families, and then also making a commitment to each other. And it was a really neat moment, kind of finish that service out even with the singing of the blessing. And we had a 7th grader that sang it over the adult population, and then some of our adult worship leaders who sang it over our young people as well. And it was just a really neat moment to see some shared ownership over that moving into the future. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of these stories of hope, because God is at work. And sometimes it's hard to see that, but God is at work. God is with us. Let me be the first to say congratulations on making it to the end. It has been sometimes an unstable 9 months, but God has been with us in all of this. This is only the beginning of your Growing Young journey. This may be the end of the cohort, but it is the beginning of your Growing Young journey. This is something that God is going to continue in our congregations, continue in our lives for the sake of young people whose names we don't even know yet. I want to send you off with this prayer from Philippians that I think is especially apropos as we end the cohort, but it has also been really important to me personally. And it's this: I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you, he who began a good work in your team and your congregation, your community, will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And with that, thank you so much for joining us today, and go in the grace and peace of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.